Today, we're looking at Noodler's Dostoyeosky. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Noodler's Dostoyeosky is a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Noodler's Ahab with a modified flex nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. And up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately put it into water. And we see this very nice light blue, kind of grayish across the bottom. On the immediate one, that means that I expect there to be some permanence because it pushes immediately up. The rest of the ink is running from the page, or running from the water. And we see light blue across the top, that turquoise across the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And look at that bottom line. Very dark, not budging. The rest of that ink pushes up, running from the water, leaving only the light blue across the top. I expect that this has got some serious hold on. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now I let that smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, this ink has no fear of the highlighter. None whatsoever. So yes, use it as a note taker, and don't worry about if something gets on it. Make sure you choose your pen wisely here, because looking at this resistance, wow. Look at water. In 30 seconds, a drop of water reactivates, pulls some of the blue, and that's it off the page. That dark gray that was left is still left. It is not budging at all. Pen Flush did the same thing as water. I put a drop of it down, and in 30 seconds I lifted it up, and the only thing that came up was the blue. The gray is solid and intact. The scary part here is in bleach. I put bleach down for 30 seconds, and only the blue budged. This is a very permanent ink, which is good for document protection. Just first test this ink in a less expensive pen to make sure that it's not going to be staining your pen, although I haven't had any pen staining problems with this ink. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Dostoyeosky has a viscosity of 2.19, which makes it a very normal ink in terms of its flow and viscosity. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples with extra fine and medium nibs done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Noodler's Dostoyeosky has a dry time of 9 seconds, which makes it a very fast drying ink. And a lot of Noodler's inks that are faster drying or very permanent are faster drying. I don't know, it's something with the way he makes them. The more permanent, it seems the faster they frequently dry. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but it does have shading through the writing. It has very nice shading through the writing. Something very common in turquoise and teal inks, and this one is no exception. The extra fine gives us no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but yes, shade all the way through in every single word. Every word gets multiple shades. It's great. It does a really good job. 5 seconds to dry. And it didn't make me wait forever. The medium, same tone. Same tone as the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, or sheen. Great shading through all of this writing. Great shading. I mean, this is not your Apache Sunset shading, but this is great shading through all of it. and 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both the extra fine and the medium shows we're going to get some color variation, and we do. The smear test says we can recover this, and I believe them. Tomoe River. No bleeding, yes ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, or sheen, but it does show some shade. It shows some darker tones in the Y, shows some darker tones in the other Y, in the T, in the S. So it definitely gets some areas with some darker tones. Very nice. Same tone with the extra fine. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, but it's still giving us color variation. The, in quick, in brown, the X in fox, the P in jumps, we're getting color variation and really nice color variation in the extra fine. 10 seconds to dry. The medium, same tone. This ink holds really strong to its tone and giving you nice shading. I don't think it gets anywhere near as dark as like what came up in the swab. And another, like, I don't like swabs as a way to see a color because none of this looks like this. None of this looks like this. It's just off. So, swabs aren't really my way of seeing colors. The color of the ink, truly. So yeah, the medium, no feather spread, halo, sheen, tons of shading, 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us we're going to get some color variation. We did. On Tomoe River, we saw the shading all the way through in all of the writing. And the smear test, it's Tomoe River. You don't get to recover it. So I look at Rhodia paper. Rhodia gives me no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Yes, we keep some of the shading. It's not as stark as it was with the Clairefontaine paper, but it's still there. It's still definitely there. The extra fine, same tone. Very consistent color here. Very consistent. No feather, spread, halo, or sheen, but yes, shading all the way through this. Every word gets multiple tones. It's fantastic. 5 seconds to dry. And the medium? No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Yes, shading. Every word. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us we're going to get color variation, and we do in both. The smear test says we can likely recover it. And I put this into an AHAB. And the interesting thing to me in an AHAB when I was taking notes is look at that. Noticeably lighter tone. This is one of the first times I'm seeing this noticeably lighter with this. But tons of shading all the way through. Everything. This is a fantastic turquoise ink. I'm glad it made its way to America. I know it's made here, but it was a European exclusive. It was a Russian exclusive. So I'm glad that they let that be, come here because wow. So I look at Inky Fingers notebook. It's a wheat straw paper. That's not a bleed through. That's a spot from a different paper when I was doing some of these writing samples. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. Not really. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We still get some shading. We still get shading with this ink on this paper. That's pretty amazing to go paper after paper after paper. And the thing is, I'm choosing papers. I have other papers that I do this all on. So I don't just put up the papers I test. I test a whole bunch of papers and I just try to choose 5 or 6. It's amazing to me to see the amount that everything works. Extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Yes, shading all over the place. 5 seconds to dry. The medium, same story of greatness. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Yes, shade all over the place. And only 8 seconds to dry. That scrubby shows us that we should expect some color variation. We got it. The extra fine, I think you could recover. The medium, I don't think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. So I tested Fabriano. Fabriano paper gave us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Yes, the shading is all over the place. Sorry, pulling out another piece of paper that I thought did well. Anyway. So it did great. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Yes, shade all over. 4 seconds to dry. Just wow. You know, medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, shading. We get shading all over it, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby here shows us we should expect shading. We did get shading. The smear test says we should expect to be able to recover this, and we can. And so then I went, and this was the one I was just trying to pull out, and I was looking real fast to see if I had, what's it called, crap paper. Oh, geez. It's like the arch enemy of fountain pens. Moleskin. Nope, didn't have moleskin. I think I ran out of it and I replaced it with the memoranda pads. Now, if you were to search these out on Google, you would just go search military memoranda pad. These were the pads that we used when I was in the Marines. The paper is not good. It is quite bad. And look at that. So I get 3 of these books for like $4. Yeah, 3 for $4, and look at that. Other than a scrubby, no bleeding, no ghosting. The medium has some feathering. You can hear the texture of the page. See if you can hear the texture of the page. This is a rough paper. This is the kind of paper that if you get your notebook entirely wet, you can dry it and still use it. It doesn't go, the notebook will get a little warped, but this survived in the field all the time for us. The medium had no real spread. It did have some feathering. The feathering's all over and consistent. I would live with it on this paper for the cost, for what I save. I would live with it. We have no halo, no sheen, and no shade on this paper. So this is the one that defeats it for shading. The extra fine has no spread, but it does have feathering all over. Again, tiny little feathers all over the place. They're really small. I would live with it for the cost of these notebooks and how well they hold up, because look at that. And for a little tiny pocket-sized notebook, fits in your shirt pocket without an issue, and it doesn't weigh a ton. No halo, no sheen, and no shade. 3 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us we're not going to get color variation, and the smear test says you could recover this. You can recover this if you were to go ahead and get your notebook wet right after writing. You'd still be able to see it. And that's all that I have for the writing sample.
I want to start off by saying I realize that I am butchering this name, Noodler's Dostoyeosky, I think. The whole video, man, this one's wrapping my tongue up. I'm all in knots here. Whew. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Dostoyeosky, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Krishna's Earth because it's a really neat orangey brown color. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Noodler's Dostoyeosky? I had some fears doing some of the testing that this was going to be super aggressive and push its way through a lot of papers, and it didn't, which impressed the hell out of me. As a turquoise, this writes well on every paper with almost every nib. This is an incredibly nice performing ink. The only thing that, like I said, got me was how resistant this particular ink was. I wasn't really expecting that, but that's kind of an added benefit with this ink. Thanks for watching.